What up? This is Myron, and you are listening or watching the Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast. That down on the docks, on the other side of the tracks, 5-star dive bar Mariners podcast that you're listening to or watching wherever you're getting it. Look, I'm not going to judge you where you're getting it as long as you're liking, subscribing, and sharing the love of the Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast. I got Hannah with me up in Edmonds. We're happy to do this episode. We are pumped up that the hot stove, we're turning that hot stove off. We got some real baseball to talk about on today's episode. We are riffing a little bit about the Super Bowl and this and that, and just kind of touching base with one another. I haven't talked to Hannah in about a week, so this was fun to get together. And we are focusing on this episode, kind of focus more on the outfield. We're talking about the corner outfield positions and the people fighting for maybe those 4th and 5th outfield spot. That's our focus for today's episode. Anyways, Hannah, you know what time it is. Charge.
Get ready to play hardball in the Kingdom.
Take me to the ball game. I want to see the Ants. The Mariners are playing hardball. Did it again and again and again. Did it again.
Princess Tours, the vacation company, brings you the best show in baseball when the San Diego Chicken plays hardball with the Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the Kingdom.
Well, Hannah, we've made it. We've made it to the point of our podcast here on season 3, where we get to turn off this goddamn hot stove and actually see some baseball, at least some practicing of baseball in a group in one spot, coaches, pitchers, catchers. Seems like a lot of the Mariners have already reported down there. How's it feel to be at this actual point right now?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch and see what type of season these guys are going to have. Start recognizing guys that I haven't seen much of, and yeah, looking real forward to it.
I'm excited to see what numbers all these new people are going to be. It's going to kind of be like Little League. I don't know. They just throw a bag out there with the numbers and you kind of just.
Yeah, numbers are a big deal. If a guy has a kind of a quirky or odd number, I mean, it really throws me off on him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, when you were in Little League and stuff like that on Jersey Day, you already knew what you were going for.
Oh, most definitely. Every sport I played, when they had them out, I had my, 1 through 3 choices, depending on where I was as far as seniority, no doubt.
Yeah, mine was more about like what fit. I was kind of fluctuating in weight when I was around there, but that's back before you could just buy custom jerseys. Like, oh, I don't like my jersey. Well, you can just buy another. It was a different game. It was like all the leftover jerseys from years and years past.
Yeah, everything was recycled through year after year. Same here. It's not where you had to pay a bunch of money and you get a jersey included. Like it sounds like you're telling me now how it is for the kids.
Yeah, and you could play in like 5 different leagues for the kids. Back when we played, you had Little League, and then you just went to the park and you played nonstop.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I always go, man, I wish I would have had all these other leagues that we could have played in. And I was like, you know what? We were down there getting just as many reps, but not as many instructional hours like the kids get today.
Oh, for sure. My only regret is not having the turf that all the kids have now to play on.
Agreed. I don't think they're really going to ever realize what a mud ball is.
Oh, man, you just jogged my memory. That's like when Coach brought out the new pearls for BP. Otherwise, you'd have game waterlogged balls. And yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, growing up playing baseball in Seattle, like the first time you actually hit a pearl in a game and you drill it, you're like, oh, my God, I didn't feel nothing. You look like, I think that's the best hit of the year you get.
Yeah, that new Pearl, man, it was like hitting a racquetball.
Yeah. Well, you know what is really good about the NFL and their expanded playoffs and baseball with their expanded playoffs. Now it's what? Not even a week. It's a few days in between one to the other, literally passing the baton. I know we got basketball and you got hockey. Those two kind of just run together. But baseball and football are the yin and the yang, I still feel like, in American sports.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel like it feels like there was a little bit longer of a break in between the Super Bowl and the guys reporting, but maybe I'm just getting older and things are coming together closer. I have no idea.
It was 3 days.
I
two
know.
or three days. 2 or 3 days. Super Bowl, real quick. We're not going to spend too much time on it here. What do you think? What are your takeaways?
I enjoyed the game. I thought it was an incredible game. First half, maybe was slow for some people, but I like the slog of them trying to go against each other's defense. I mean, these guys were flying around and cracking. I enjoyed the game. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I was protesting it, but then I ended up watching the entire second half. The Usher drew me in. But I do have to say I got into it like right before the second half for about 5, 6, 7 minutes. And I was like, what in the fuck kind of fonts are they using on the screen? What is going on with the weird graphics? And then the entire end zone was slimed. And I was like, okay. And it just kept on going. I thought, okay, maybe like Nickelodeon paid for like one little thing or something like that. And it just kept going on and on. And I realized I was watching the Nickelodeon feed for the last 3 minutes of the second half or first half when I had first jumped into it.
I know that's so funny. I was dying.
It was so fucking weird. Got to be honest here. Just like you were honest that you were praying to all the gods that we got Carlos Randon years ago. I have something to admit. I was actually rooting for the 49ers, which is, I know, sacrilege, but that's how much I cannot stand the Chiefs, and mainly the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce shit. And I felt so dirty and so wrong rooting for the Niners. And then, of course, they come up short for me the one time I've ever rooted for them.
That's funny because I was doing the same thing. I went to a friend's house and both of those guys were pulling for the Chiefs and they were surprised that I was going for the Niners. And I wasn't, I was going for them per se. It was just that I thought they were going to win the game. So they were, they were definitely giving it to me as far as when the Niners would, make a mistake or Purdy didn't look too well. But yeah, I just kind of felt like between those two teams, I thought the Niners would win. So I hear what you're saying though, but yours is maybe a little different. You were actually pulling for them, huh?
I was actually I quietly in my brain. I didn't make noises when things I weren't like yes and this and that, but I was just sitting there constantly reminding myself. As soon as that happened, I was ready for baseball. Let's just say that. And anyways, I'll tell you what, I'm so excited about now just not having to do episodes that we're solely talking about frustrating stuff with the Mariners, frustrating stuff with the front office, but it'll still be there. But now we got the rest of the media turning towards baseball. We got stuff to read. We're actually getting real information going on. Now we're just praying for health.
Yeah, the way this team is constructed, yeah, that's got to be the number one thing going into spring training is can these guys stay healthy for, all of spring training and then 162.
So it just seems like this year, though, the health is going to be so in the magnifying glass because a lot of these people that the Mariners traded for and acquired, all of them have a track record of injury or not playing because of some sort
Oh,
of circumstances and nagging injuries, and some with bad luck.
Absolutely. I mean, when I think of Mitch Haniger, I think of bad luck. Him, getting hit in the testicle that one year, missing a bunch of time. Him then after leaving the Mariners, signing with the Giants and taking a fastball off his wrist and never really recovering and getting injured. He's feels snake bitten right away. But his whole career's been like that. And, we another acquisition, Mitch Garver, he hasn't played that much. I don't think he's played over 100 games in his career, if I'm correct. I at least know he didn't play that last year. And then you
He,
mentioned Rayleigh.
one time he's played over 100, but barely.
Yeah, so I mean it's a huge question mark, and for the Mariners to basically turn over the roster, and then so many of the guys that they picked up have had these questions. Polanco was hurt last year. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Well, Polanco and Haniger, not me or you being cynical about it. We're just going like, you I hope you prove us wrong. I hope they're all healthy. And like we've said this before, where on the blunt rotation are we with these players? As far as Haniger and as far as Polanco, two former All-Stars, it seems like they have these rotations of monster years, shortened years, whether it was because of a suspension or injuries or COVID or whatever. And then they have this monster year, and then they kind of have a couple. If you go through their track record, it's very it's a definite pattern. And I feel like if that stays true, if that theory of mine stays true, we're gonna get a good year out of those two.
Yeah, I mean certainly with Haniger, knowing that he is not the guy that we're relying on in that 3 or 4 hole hitter to produce like he has in the past. That they have some depth this year, which is nice. Guys that can spell him out in right field. He can rotate maybe at DH too. So I'm sure hopefully that'll help him unless he gets snake bitten and gets hit in the elbow or the arm with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah, and as far as the platoon going, it looks like Canzone's the front runner, or you would assume he's going to be back on the team, starting with the roster up in Seattle against Boston. But you also have Taylor Trammell, I know, but you also have Sam Haggerty. I know we know, but we also have Cade Marlowe. Now, Cade Marlowe showed us some stuff last year. Showed us some great moments. Maybe one of the season turning, definitely fatal blow, I would say, to the Anaheim Angels. So I'm always gonna love him for that. They never recovered after that series one or game one in that 4-game series, about to put the Mariners away. Grand slam. Cade Marlowe had a nice little run, and then he started to slump. But to be fair, it was starting to get crowded out there in the outfield, and then probably that gray cloud of Jared Kelnick coming back was over that. We also have Jonathan Clase. Interesting to see what he's going to look like down in spring training. I think he set some record with since from 1961 in the minor leagues. There hasn't been a player that's hit 20 home runs and stole 79. I think over 60 bases, but he stole 79 bases. Interested to see what's going to go on there for those fourth and those fifth outfield spots, because if I'm them, going off of the track record of all the other people outside of Julio, if you get your game right, you're going to get some playing time this year.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I agree with you. I like Marlowe a lot. Plays great defensively, gets a pretty good jump on the ball, is solid out there. Um, and was stroking for times um during the season last year. But yeah, kind of fell out of grace with either service and he was slumping too a little bit. But I like him. You mentioned Haggerty. We all know about him. Trammell. It's going to be interesting for Trammell this year. I saw he was at Driveline. I believe he's out of options. So,
Yes.
so that's going to be interesting unless uh, he doesn't get picked up and decides to go stay with the Mariners or what have you, or I mean, he makes the team then too. But yeah, and then Class A, he's a very interesting young player on the 40-man roster who, like you mentioned, had incredible minor league statistics. And kind of what I've heard about him is, yeah, he could maybe threaten to make the squad if he has an unbelievable spring. Otherwise, kind of projected in Double A, but possibly Triple A as well, and someone we could see this year, if not in the beginning of the year later on. So yeah, it is. That's kind of going to be interesting to see how that unfolds for those outfield positions.
Yeah, and I'd also like to mention too, invited to camp is Smith and Jigba's brother. Uh,
God,
you know, you know,
saw a video of him. I know it's just batting practice fastballs, but woo, what a nice swing. Very impressed.
yeah,
That ball
he's
was
got a different
getting,
body than his brother, like a big time,
yeah,
like totally different body than his brother.
yeah, that guy can drive the ball. And like I said, it's just BP fastballs in a cage. I don't know if he's got any timing or what his eye is, but man, sure looked good there. I mean, he could be a, 530 hitter, but as we know, the game starts at 7:10. So um, we'll see what kind of hitter he is. That'll be interesting to see when he's facing live pitching where the ball's moving on him and he doesn't know what's coming.
Yeah, and you mentioned Taylor Trammell. You know, I was a Taylor Trammell guy. You were a Jared Kelnick guy. Back when we were competing, or we were competing on which guy the Mariners should be having on the team. But with Taylor Trammell, man, you always got to root for him because he's literally one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet. Totally cool,
Yeah,
totally nice. Everybody likes him. He's built like how you would just a prototype of a big power outfielder. He's got the speed, sometimes has some amazing plays in the field, sometimes some weird ones. Him and Teoscar Hernandez are kind of similar, where it's great play, you feel great, and then there's kind of that like, well, what the heck just happened there? And but at the plate, big thing with him too. We're getting away from that philosophy of uh, big swings and the strikeouts, going for the home run, going for contacts. It's going to be interesting to see if he changes his approach that way, because if this guy can start hitting line drives, slashing line drives, he's either going to help this team or somebody's going to want to get him. But you're right, he's out of options. And maybe that's what's the thing that's going to change it when your back's up against the wall.
yeah. And in the beginning of our conversation, we talked about health, and he was snake bitten by health last year to start the year, hurt his hammock bone, and never really recovered and really made any time with a big league squad other than a few call-ups because of injury. So hopefully he stays healthy and he can prove to be that player that you've always wanted him to be, no doubt.
Also, too, about Marlowe last year, he did what he was asked to do. He was up here to spell Jared Kelnick. By the time Jared Kelnick was coming back up, Dom Canzone was on the team. And yeah, he started to slump. So you wonder if it was a little bit of that longevity pressure or the pressure of knowing, hey, I was pretty comfortable in the spot I was in because they had no other option. You're playing every day. You're getting a little bit of a slump, and other people are coming up, that human part of it. And the first time being up in the major leagues like that uh, might have, gotten to him. But he had a lot of big moments last year, whether it was base running,
Yeah.
I know the home run was impressive, but there was a triple that he got last year that I just remember. It was fucking awesome. It was like late in the game, and the guy's fast, and the guy can play in the outfield. I feel like him as a fourth or fifth outfielder, I think that's the step you want to see from him. You want to see him being on the team for a majority of the season and having those late inning impacts, subbing into games, making maybe even a start out in center field, giving Julio a day off at the DH position here and there. Can play both corner outfields. I don't feel like he's any sort of liability in the outfield from what I've seen.
No, you're right. I mean, he can steal you a base. I'm a big fan of his. I hope he wins a job. The only thing I worry about is like we have a lot of left-handers, with Raleigh or Rayleigh, excuse me, Canzone, and then him. But Depending on what kind of season we get from Ty France, we know that Rayleigh can play a lot of positions. Maybe he would be spelling Ty France at first, and you go with an outfield of Marlowe in one corner and Canzone in the other. So there's definitely some options out there, but seems like a lot of left-handed hitting from the bench as far as backup outfielders. But it's just kind of what it is. And then we know about Sam, switch hitter. So yeah, there's gonna be some tough decisions to make for Scott Service.
I wish we could have gotten another outfielder, and you know what I mean? If these other guys are healthy, it's not necessary. But for me, I do feel like I would be more comfortable with a proven all-star level right-handed swinging outfielder. But it would be nice to see a move for Randy Arozarena, but obviously we know what the asking price was going to be around the league to bring in another outfielder. You do have four, like three, or I'd say three, maybe four outfielders where they're either rising or it's a shit get off the pot. You would think one of these people that we've mentioned right here.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel the Mariners are still a bat short. And you mentioned a Rosarina, a guy they'd have
Absolutely.
to trade forward. But that's why the Cody Bellingers and those type of players that have a little bit more of a track record, but cost you an arm and a leg would be really nice as far as an extra bat on this team. But we know that's not going to happen. But so like you said, these guys are getting their opportunity, and they got to taste a little bit of the big league life last year with Canzone and Marlowe making their debuts. Trammell has been up and down, yo-yoing between here and AAA. Same with Haggerty. So yeah, it's their time, that's for sure.
And like I'm saying, like you got 4 or 5 of them. You'd assume just out of the odds, one of them is going to make this big step. And if we see that happen, that's going to be huge.
The World Series, where a pitch is not just a pitch, it's a World Series pitch. Where a hit is not just a hit, it's a World Series hit. A win is not just a win, it's a World Series win. Now, you've got a chance to win a trip to the 1984 World Series by entering Major League Baseball's Grand Slam sweepstakes at all Major League ballparks and participating retailers. Baseball fever, catch it.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
Supercross this weekend in the Kingdome. The Coors Beer Supercross doubleheader. Get ready, Seattle, this Saturday night at 7:30 and Sunday afternoon at 2. The 1988 ANA Supercross Tour, Motorcycle Mania, on an incredible dirt battleground that treats man and machine the same way. With absolutely no respect. See the best. National champion Jeff Ward, former champion Ricky Johnson. Tickets at all Ticketmaster locations, including the Bond, Tower Records and Video, and participating Honda dealers. The Coors Beer Supercross.
But anyways, that's our episode for today. We'll be back soon. Check us out on all of our socials. Hanno, with that being said, you know what fucking time it is. Ciao.